All right, today we're diving into a really powerful parable. We're talking about a war, but not a war of nations, a war for the very soul of existence. And this isn't just some abstract fantasy story. It's about a battle of ideas, one that's happening right now inside each of us in the marketplace of our own minds. So, the story kicks off with this really chilling image. A signal is given. But think about this. It's not a light that helps you see, it's a light that erases. This so-called white lantern doesn't reveal any truth. It literally bleaches the color, the meaning, the vibrancy right out of the world. And with that single act, the siege begins. Okay, so that sets the stage for our first act. And this isn't a war with armies and swords. This is a fundamental conflict. It's a fight over a single question. Does life have any real, inherent meaning? Or is it all just an empty, indifferent void? So, the battleground. Picture this. A marketplace, just buzzing with life, with color, with creativity. This place is a symbol for a world where we actively build and find meaning. But the threat? Oh, it's immediate and it's insidious. The void is just systematically draining all of that vibrancy away, turning this beautiful world of connection into a lonely, colorless, and confusing maze. And here are our two main players. What's so fascinating here is the contrast. On one side, you've got the pale cynic. His weapon is a kind of logic that ultimately leads to nothingness, to total negation. And on the other side, you have the jester, or the harlequin, and his entire philosophy is about creating your own meaning, about affirming life through your actions. So their weapons and defenses aren't physical at all, they're deeply philosophical. So how does the cynic actually fight this war? Let's get into his primary weapon, because this is how the siege is really fought. Again, this isn't about swords and shields, the whole battlefield. It's right inside your own head. And this is his main weapon, the ghosts. Now, when we say ghosts, don't think of spooky spirits. No. We're talking about something way more personal and maybe way more terrifying. These are the psychic imprints of our worst moments, our deepest pains, our repressed traumas, our most bitter injustices. The cynic takes these weaponized memories and attacks, not with a scream, but with a suffocating silence that's designed to kill laughter and extinguish every last spark of joy. And make no mistake, this is a full-blown strategy of regression. The cynic's whole game plan is to unleash these ghosts, memories of being rejected, of failing, to reactivate all that old pain. The goal is to get the soul stuck, completely fixated on the past, unable to move forward. It's an attempt to force you backwards, to negate any meaning you've ever built for yourself, and trap you in the state of perpetual immaturity where the whole world just turns to ash and gray. And this quote, man, this gets right to the heart of the cynic's whole deal. He looks at the jester's vibrant, meaningful world, and he just scoffs at it. He's basically saying, all that meaning you think you're creating, that joy, it's fake, it's a delusion. He sees it as just a flimsy, psychological shield we put up to hide from the cold, hard, and meaningless truth of reality. And here's why the attack works so well, and why it's so sinister. Each of these weaponized memories, each ghost, it's a mirror. It's a reflection of a part of yourself that you've pushed down, that you've repressed and refused to accept. The cynic is using you against yourself. He's turning your own unhealed wounds into an army that fights for his side, slowly twisting your entire worldview until it aligns perfectly with the void. Okay, so how in the world do you fight that? How do you defend yourself against an enemy that is literally made of your own memories? Well, let's look at the Harlequin's countermove, because it is definitely not what you'd expect. It's not about fighting fire with fire. The first thing he does is, well, it's kind of paradoxical. He refuses to stare into the abyss with all this fear and concern. He gets that old saying, right? Gaze too long into an abyss and the abyss will gaze back into you. He knows that to fixate on the darkness is to feed it, to give it power, and to reinforce the very depression it wants to create. So this is his playbook, the path of affirmation. Step 1, refuse to get obsessed with the void. Step 2, you gotta embrace the messy reality of life, the pain and chaos, without letting it break you. Step 3, you consciously face those old wounds, not to dwell on them, but to understand them, so they can't weigh you down like anchors. And finally, step 4, you forge your shield from all the small, finite, but well-lived and meaningful moments you can find. But the cynic doesn't give up. The siege gets even more intense. This is where it escalates from just an attack on happiness to a total war against the very concept of the self, the idea that an individual can have meaning at all. And you can see here, As these ghosts start to inhabit the people in the marketplace, their entire perspective just warps. Their worldview becomes dominated by pessimism and this philosophy of avoidance. But what's really driving all of that? Underneath it all, it's a masked fear of failure. It becomes easier to believe that nothing matters than to risk trying and failing. It's a defense mechanism that sounds logical, but is ultimately completely self-defeating. And this is where it gets super relatable to our modern world. The Jester's philosophy of rewilding, breaking free, being your own person, forging your own path, it gets reduced and dismissed as just another controversial online post. And the herd, the crowd, inhabited by these ghosts of fear, they rush to defend the other side, the side of safety, of negation, of the void. They end up defending the very forces that are limiting them. But right in the middle of this total war, the Harlequin has this huge breakthrough. He understands what healing really is. And it's not about defeating the ghosts or burying in the past and pretending it didn't happen. It's about integration. It's about transforming your relationship with those painful memories. It's about seeing them as imprints that have shaped you, for sure, but that do not have to define you or destroy you. They become scars, not open wounds. Part of your story, but not in control of your present.
And this is where the parable leaves us, on a massive cliffhanger. The battle has reached its absolute climax. The marketplace is silent. The pale cynic stands there, ready to just flick his hand and unleash the final, total obliteration of all meaning. And everything just hangs there in the balance.
And that's the thing. The story doesn't give us the answer. It just leaves us with this huge, provocative question. This final fight, this grand reckoning, it's all about preventing your own soul from becoming just another ghost, trapped in the maze of your own past. So it forces us to ask ourselves, in our own lives, when we're faced with our own siege of the void, how is that battle won?